Hey everyone, it's me, Yan. This is the final lesson for the due diligence part of the course. And here we will talk a bit about how to prepare and organize the information in anticipation of this process. We call this centralized storage of relevant information, the data room. Back in the day, this used to be a physical room where paper copies of the information would be stored. Nowadays, this is more of a computer drive or in the cloud. As you can see on the graphic already, a tiered system and named folders in a nice way to approach it as it is efficient and saves a lot of time, especially if you're looking to raise funds from multiple investors or are in different accelerator programs. We can classify the information seen in the data room as past performance and historical information and forecasting into the future. As we see in the graphic, this is divided into different tiers because you don't want to show your hand too early for investors that you are just starting to speak to versus ones that are already at the DD phase. You disclose different types of information to them. Note, it is different types, not different altogether. In addition to past financials and financial forecasts, investors will also want to see what you plan to do with the business going forward. This can be shown in different ways. As we've seen from the lesson on preparing for due diligence, investors will have a checklist of items that they want to look at and check off, such as that you are paying your taxes, employees are under contract, or your employees have signed NDAs so they won't run off with your patents and set up a competing business, etc. The other side of this is about proving your worth. The documentation for this will be in the form of current customer contracts or testimonials, filing for patents or approvals, product roadmaps, tech roadmaps, and hiring plans. These are to validate the information in the financial forecasts. Now let's dig into each of the tiers for some more examples. For Tier 1, this would be for all investors because you will need to show them something to whet their appetite. And for investors, specifically VCs and funds, they don't like to sign NDAs. The reason behind this is that they will look at a lot of companies simultaneously and do not want to be tied down to one iteration of something. So prepare a tier that will include your pitch deck and some simple generic product details, as well as roadmaps, sales, and marketing plans, but nothing that you consider to be sensitive. When it comes to Tier 2, this is usually when it gets to the DD phase, and more sensitive materials will start to come out. In some cases, an NDA will probably need to be signed for this to go ahead. Case in point, at this stage, you may start to review information about customer contracts, and if your customer has asked you to sign an NDA for this, then you are bound to ask for an NDA from the investor as well. This tier of information will also include many that the investor will want to verify against. What this means is that if you say you have a large contract with customer X, they will seek out and look over that contract specifically to validate the information. Some more examples of what can be included in this stage can also be found in the graphic. So be prepared to include your cap table and ESOP, company information such as your incorporation record, registrations, tax filings, and licenses. With customer contracts, as mentioned earlier, you may also include testimonials and also supplier contracts. With employee contracts, these would constitute internal employees' contracts along with any non-competes or NDAs they have signed. For more detailed financials, include your audit reports, management accounts, and banking information statements. And if you have previous funding rounds, put in the SSA, SHA, or SPA for each funding round, convertible notes, and safes, etc. The last tier of your data room will be for specific requests. Very different investors will ask different questions. For example, some might ask more about your technical architecture, any open source licenses that your company is using, and what items are being developed in-house to suss out technical risks and understand technical capabilities. It's also good practice to keep track of what these different funds ask for, so you can keep a copy in this centralized area to send out if someone else also asks for it. Overall, a well-prepared and organized data room can be a big plus in your discussions with VCs and investors. An added consideration is with tempo and momentum in discussions. If it's taking a startup too long to prepare a data room, the investor, probably with simultaneous deals that they're DDing, the investor could get colder and colder. They may perceive the drop in momentum as a startup having something to hide or losing interest themselves, or that the company itself is not organized enough to provide these items in a fast and efficient manner. If these questions start to emerge, it gives the investor less reasons to want to invest and becomes a showstopper. Avoid giving off this impression and have in mind to prepare an extensive and organized data room. This covers the introduction to data room preparation. If you haven't yet, do check out the other videos in our due diligence series and term sheet bootcamp videos in general.